at the heart of this hearing today and this ongoing investigation about the IRS is that we have millions of Americans that live in fear of their government. And that's not whether you're a liberal or a conservative, you're a Democrat or Republican, or you don't care at all about politics. You don't want to live in fear of your government. And that's what's frightening about this. And the more that we've investigated here in the House, the more that we find that is disturbing, deeply disturbing. And so when we talk about this question about these cases being shipped from Cincinnati up to Washington, some want to believe it's because these were hard or complex cases. But what we found in our investigations, we have cases that were sent from Cincinnati to Washington based on news reports about a class of Tea Party folks. Then we've also heard from Carter Hull that he had cases taken from him. He's got 40 years of experience, and given to somebody who has very little experience with these cases. So the idea that it was complexity that drove this, it doesn't appear to be the case. What we find is that it was the politics that mattered. And that leads us to be more fearful of what the IRS is doing. Now, Mr. George, have you found anything counter to what I've said?
Counter to what you said, no. I mean, the IRS has one of the most important roles in the federal government. It is one of the organizations that most Americans at one point in their lives or another will have to interact with. It has to have the trust of the American people. We live in a voluntary compliance system, and if people don't trust that system, it can undermine, this nation.
Trust.
Trust, yes.
Well, I appreciate y'all's testimony and the work that you do on a daily basis to be that oversight, that that inspector generals are there for that purpose, regardless of what administration's in power. There needs to be a check on this. And so, going back to the first panel's testimony, I referenced Mr. Hull, but also Ms. Hoffaker. She testified that she accidentally sent this BLO, this Be on the Lookout list, to Washington personnel. Have you found that in your investigation?
We didn't see that, no.
We did not see. She testified to it on the first panel. So, then it leads to the question. So, if she accidentally sent this to Washington leadership, shouldn't they have known this was happening?
All we know is, according to Lois Lerner in this briefing I mentioned a minute ago to Congressman Lynch, Lois Lerner started asking questions and was first briefed in June of 2011. That's what we know at this point. There could be more information, but that's what we know based upon our audit.
Okay. Well, with that, I'd like to yield the balance of my time to my
Would
colleague.
the gentleman yield just 15 seconds first over here?
I'm happy to yield to the higher-ranking individual.
We're not higher ranking.
Thank you. Nice job.
There's been a lot of debate here, and I know you're not tax experts, but